First Sunday of a new year, kicking off our first sermon series for our year. First, a quick word about sermon series for our new friends, those just discovering Good Shepherd. Why do we do sermon series? Because we have a discipline to be a church that is submitted to God, that is glorifying God, that's walking with God, and is helping other people find hope, help, and healing in God. And to do that, we have to have a very close connection to what God says and reveals. And in the chief place that God says what he wants us to do and that he reveals himself to us is in the Bible. And so we do sermon series to discipline ourselves to always be in the Bible. Our small groups are always in the Bible. Our teaching series are always in the Bible. We want to make sure that no agendas from the outside get in here. We want to make sure that we are not just kind of following a trend in the society, political or otherwise. We want to make sure that we are pleasing to God and that we are giving the true counsel of God. And so we work very hard, and we love to do it, and even better to share it when we are in the Word together. So this is going to be a sermon series, church, at least for a while, certainly for today. And this is our first one for the new year. And obviously it sets the pace. Obviously, it frames what we see God calling us to in this new year. And the title of this new sermon series is Empowered. Let me give you a little context for Empowered. We are coming off a very successful year here at Good Shepherd. Jesus, all the glory be to you. We define success here at Good Shepherd, and I can learn a little bit more about us. We define success as more of Jesus in us and more of Jesus through us. And that was 2024, like no other year that I've shared with you in these last 15 years. I could give you all kinds of examples. I got a text from Pastor Des today, and Pastor Des said, I'm just thinking about you, Pastor Todd, and Good Shepherd, and I'm praying for you, my friend, but I would just want to let you know, to tell everybody that you're going to talk to today, that you guys changed my life, and I am the minister I am today because I spent time with you. More of Jesus in us and more of Jesus through us. We saw that in so many ways. Our small groups, more people engaged at higher levels, and now the interest in small groups is very high as we come into a new year. That's so encouraging. The Full Mobilization sermon series was pivotal for us because it kind of put us in the place of like, so are you going to go for it or not? And when we asked for volunteers for Countdown to Christmas, we had so many volunteers. And when we said, okay, so you're into it, we're going to do a school of ministry, and we're going to teach you what we know and what God is revealing to us about how to actually be a more effective minister. Will anybody come and will anybody care? And boy, did you come. And boy, did you ace the School of Ministry. We're going to bring that back in some form because we want to make sure everybody gets a chance to do it. It just set us up to crown a year that was just really quite unbelievable. And that's why I'm talking about being empowered by the Holy Spirit as we go into 2025, because success is seductive. I've been watching a lot of Paw Patrol lately. Two grandsons have been with us now for almost 2 months, or maybe 2 months. I lost track of time. I think you'll understand. But let me tell you what, if Ryder says Paw Patrol is on a roll one more time, I don't even know what I'm going to do. Success is seductive. You see, Good Shepherd is on a roll. God is favoring us. God is using us. God is increasing us. And all I see is that trend continuing. I got to be honest with you. And so now it's very easy to say, it'll always be like this, it'll always be good, it'll go from good to great and then amazing because we know what we're doing, we're an amazing congregation, we got everything in place, we got the best facilities in our arcade, we're positioned, and just, it's so seductive. Just say, well, of course it's all for Jesus, but we're pretty fantastic. And when that gets inside of you, you see all these scandals of these celebrity pastors. 2024 was the wiping out of celebrity pastors. They were just decimated. And I understand why. It's not good, but I understand why. It's like, well, look how successful we are. It's like, yeah, look at how successful you are. And you're already starting to go off the road. So we're going to do just the opposite, or at least attempt to, and say, 2025 is going to fall short. It's going to fall on its face. It's going to be flat. It'll be completely nothing that any of us really, really want if we do this in our own power. But if we will press in like we never have before into the power of the Holy Spirit and live empowered and minister empowered and above all love empowered, then this will be seen as the beginning of an era that can only be explained that God took the whole thing over and did the things that only God could do. So that's the introduction to the sermon series and why we do sermon series. And now I want to start by being the first sermon illustration of what we're going to be talking about for the next several weeks together by your amazing team. How things are done in the kingdom of God determines who receives the glory. And we are committing ourselves. I'm declaring 2025 that this is the year of living empowered to the glory of Jesus Christ. Sounds right, right? It is. But friends, I've seen it. And I've already started living into it. It began in the middle of 2024. I'm going to read the words that I wrote a little bit because this is all very hard to fully describe. So I'm going to use some of the words. It all began in the middle of 2024. It began for us and me in 2024 in the middle. I felt like my life was wrapping up. I felt myself regularly more and more detaching from this mode of life. And I found myself longing for the real life, for my true life, for my destined life, for my ever life with the Lord in His presence. And I felt myself moving towards that. And I felt eternity moving toward me. Some of you have felt that. It's crazy. I felt eternity moving toward me. And the more I felt the eternity moving towards me, the more I wanted to lay the burden down and just rest. Just wanted to rest. It's a burden. I wanted to rest. I just want to be with Him forever. It is hard to say these things to you with members of my family present because, of course, I worry that they take it personally. It's like, so you just want to be done with us. Or even if some of you are taking it personally, I can feel sitting in your place as you hear this. So you just are over us, I guess. I'm sorry. Words are hard to describe this. It's of course not that at all. But I just felt eternity moving towards me. I began to think that my life here on earth was probably winding things up. And I was getting more and more excited about that. And that went in conjunction with things going on in my body. I was having what my grandma used to call spells. Did your grandma ever call them spells? It's like when your body goes weird, okay? I began having, okay, Grandma, I get it now. I began having spells. My body just wasn't right. It was not right. There was something going on inside of me that was like less life in me, like a draining of life. And in replacement of a force that was coming into me that was going to take me out of life, I began having these spells. Of course, I didn't tell anybody too much about it, but the worst one was at the golf outings. Oh, sorry, Jeff. Kevin, I apologize. The rest of you, I don't usually golf that badly. And now you should feel ashamed of yourself. God, that was a bad day. I was not right. I wasn't right. my body was like that stuck microwave, right? When your microwave is like, it doesn't shut off. It's starting to feel hot. Just you're poking your microwave to make it shut down. It goes, nope, fried. And that's what I felt happening inside my body, particularly that day. Let's jump to Memphis. Thanksgiving time, when our family gets to be together, at least most of it, my favorite time, my most refreshing time, my most renewing time. We're in Memphis because my oldest son, his wife, and their twin sons, they live down in the Memphis area, and we were down there for Thanksgiving. That's when I kind of refresh myself, refine myself, just remind myself how great life is, how great a life I have. And the entire time I was there, I felt like I was living outside of myself. I was like watching myself interacting with my family. But I wasn't there. I was like leaving. And on one particular day when it was just a perfect day of joy and crazy kids, love and utter blessedness, I just felt myself getting ready to go. Culminated that night when we're, all together and speaking loudly as we do because we're all brilliant people who are always right. Typical Wallace Men gathering. And I just had to, I said, hey, y'all, I need to go for a walk. Baba just gets up in the middle of the whole thing. Dad gets up in the middle of the thing and said, oh, this has been great. I'm going to go for a walk. And I walked out the door. I was pretty sure that when I walked out of that door, my destination was eternity. I didn't want to die in front of them. I didn't want to die in my son's house. But I'm pretty sure that when I walked out the door, and I was pretty resigned to the fact that my destination was eternity, I was dying. It's all right. Went down the sidewalk, went to a place where we'd been on walks before, and in that place, just a little crossroads of walking paths behind some people's house. But the thing is, had like a beautiful tree and a little grove of tree. And I didn't consciously understand that I was walking towards that tree, but I was walking towards that tree, and I'll tie that in here in a second. I arrived there, and my plan was I was just going to lay under the tree, pray the Lord's Prayer, pray in the Spirit, and just say, I love you, Jesus, until I went to sleep. And then could rest. And I was ready to walk over to the tree, and I stopped, and I said, okay, just to make sure. And I did something that I do frequently, and that is I give my heart to Jesus. I like to give my heart to Jesus language. I think it still works. I think we should teach kids that and explain it to all of them. But giving my heart to Jesus didn't mean, giving myself to Jesus. I'd done that a long time ago. My heart, the things I love the most now are my wife, my kids, my grandkids, and yes, Good Shepherd, my wife, my kids, my grandkids. You're number 4 on the list. That's pretty good. And I thought, but if I had more time with them, if I had more time with you, and I was stuck. I was ready, and part of me very willing, to lay under that tree and sleep and rest. I wanted to see Jesus. Sorry, I just do. And the thought of you, them. So I said, okay, Jesus, what if I had more time? But I don't want more time. But I do want more time. I think if I had more time, but I think my time is really up. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to just continue to be what I've always been. I want more of you, Jesus. One way or another, how this goes, one thing I want, if I can ask, is more of you, Jesus. So I'll leave it to you. But don't let me keep living if I can't have more of you. because I'm too far down this road to settle for less of you. So I simply surrendered my life to Jesus and said, I leave it to you. I surrender my life to you. Use me to your glory. Friends, that is the source of the empowered life. Surrender is the source of the fully empowered Christian life. I've seen it. I've been to it. I'm starting to feel it. It's new in my life like never before. Speaking of the Bible, Isaiah chapter 6, here's his account. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord seated upon a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him stood the seraphim. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And the one seraphim called to the other and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the foundations of the threshold shook, and the voice of him who called, and the house was filled with smoke. And I said, Woe is me! For I am lost, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the Lord of hosts. Then one of the seraphim flew to me, having in his hand a burning coal, and he had taken from the tongs from the altar, and he touched my mouth. And he said, Behold, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sins atoned for. And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? And I said, Here I am. Send me. Did I see the Lord? No, not to this point. Did I directly encounter God? Yes, whatever that means, yes. And did I say, I will go? I did. So I didn't kneel at the grove of those trees and lay down. I laid at the foot of that tree one last time and resurrendered. And the reason that's interesting is I remember a time when I was in Bible college and all the things of God were being revealed to me so quickly, and I was so overwhelmed, I was so eager, I was just absolutely just craving a life for God, and I didn't know fully how to go about entering into it, because I don't know, how do you do that? What do you do with all this? And I kept looking at a little grove of trees behind one of the dormitories, and one night I just went out there when I was 20 years old, and I said, I don't want to live. I'd rather be in heaven. But if I am staying here and if you're keeping me here, I insist you use my life. Here I am. Send me. And I was brought to that place one more time. So what's the deal with the stroke? I'll talk about more of the stroke here as I conclude here in just a minute. So what's the deal with the stroke? So I went home from the encounter with God. I went up to bed. I went to sleep at midnight. Had to get up because I'm a 63-year-old man. And then as I did, I began to see my left arm was like wonky. It's like, oh, I must have slept in it weird. It's like, wake up, didn't wake up. I went downstairs. I'm going, wake up, wake up, wake up. It didn't wake up. My wife begins to wonder where I am. I said, honey, this is weird. Look. And she says, we're getting in the car and going to the hospital. My brain was bleeding. My microwave cooked and fried, and my brain was bleeding. As a result, I had a stroke. The kind of stroke that I had was hemorrhagic stroke. It's when your brain bleeds. Usually it bleeds and bleeds and bleeds, and you are debilitated at certain different levels. It is often a no come back from her, and it's often fatal, and once you've had one, you could have another one and just be gone. So I had a hemorrhagic stroke. I spent Thanksgiving in the ICU. I spent my birthday in the ICU. I spent the next day in the ICU. And here I am today. So what's the deal with the stroke? I don't know. What's God's purpose in the stroke? I don't know. You see, if he explained everything to us and gave us exact details about everything that's going to happen to you next, that would eradicate your most powerful force of living empowered, and that is your faith. Your trust in God. That's all I got about what this is all about. But this, I think I am authorized to tell you, when you surrender to the Lord and are touched by his power, your life is never the same. Warning, or at least honesty in advertising. It can't be. You are now totally his. How can anything be the same? That surrendered life, that's the source of being empowered, and that's what we're going to be talking about these next several weeks. It is a no-misser. I cannot personally wait. One thing I also know as I wrap up, the Lord is looking for people he can powerfully use, that he can fully empower, who want one thing above all things. I want you to use my life. That's what I want. More than anything else. I want you to use my life. That's where this has taken me. He's looking for people, for a congregation of people who will pray, not our will, but yours be done. A people, a person of any age, any type of person, new Christian, not even yet a Christian, longtime Christian, but anyone who will dare to ask for an encounter with God and in response say, here I am, use me. And this sermon series is the equipping, the invitation into that life as your life and into that next level power for this ministry.